The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 10 miles of polished crystal floors. 4 to 7 different alien species sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a bizarre display of galactic diversity. Some floated in energy fields, others perched on mechanical legs, and a few existed as pure thought patterns visible only through special viewing devices. Today, they were all focused on one small, blue planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. Ambassador Thylex raised his 4 arms to address the assembly. His species had ruled 3 star systems for over 1,000 years, and his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Fellow council members, we have reached a decision point regarding the humans of Earth. A ripple of agreement moved through the hall. The insect-like mantry clicked their mandibles in approval. The crystalline zephyrs pulsed with bright colors that meant satisfaction. Even the gaseous nebula folk swirled in patterns that indicated consensus. These humans, Thylex continued, his translator converting his words into 4 to 7 different languages simultaneously, have been offered the standard relocation package. New worlds, advanced technology, protection under council law. Everything any reasonable species could desire. High Councilor Vex, a towering being made of living metal, clanged his appendages together. And yet they refuse. They claim attachment to their primitive world. They speak of something they call home, as if location matters more than logic. The council had encountered thousands of species over the millennia. The pattern was always the same. First contact, followed by a demonstration of council power, then a generous offer of membership through relocation. Species were moved to more suitable worlds while their original planets were harvested for resources that benefited the greater galactic community. It was efficient. It was logical. It had worked for 3,000 years. Perhaps, suggested Councilor Zara, her tentacles writhing with amusement, they simply need more time to understand the benefits we offer. Some species require additional explanation. No, Thylex replied firmly. We have been monitoring their communications. They understand perfectly. They simply refuse to comply. This was unprecedented. In the entire history of the Galactic Council, no species had ever rejected the relocation offer. Some had negotiated for better terms, others had requested delays, but none had simply said no. The ancient archivist Molden, oldest being in the council, slowly raised his massive head. His species had been traveling between stars when most others were still learning to make fire. When he spoke, everyone listened. I have searched the historical records, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. There have been 3 species in galactic history that initially refused relocation. All 3 had to be convinced through demonstration of council power. And what happened to them? Asked Ambassador Thylex. 2 eventually complied. The third. Molden paused, his ancient eyes reflecting memories of distant wars. The third had to be relocated by force. They called themselves warriors. They fought until the very end. These humans, Vex declared, his metal form gleaming with decision, will receive one final message. Submit to relocation within 30 of their planetary rotations, or face the consequences of defying the natural order of the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. 4 to 7 species, representing billions of citizens across thousands of worlds, agreed that Earth must comply or be forced to comply. Meanwhile, on the third planet of the Sol system, President William Thompson stood in the White House Situation Room, staring at the alien message that had just finished playing on the main screen. The translation had been perfect, courtesy of the same technology the aliens had used to communicate with them for the past 6 months. Around the oval table sat the most powerful leaders on Earth. General Robert Hayes, commander of the Combined Earth Defense Forces. Dr. Margaret Collins, the brilliant scientist who had led humanity's first attempts to understand alien technology. Defense Secretary Thomas Bradley. Secretary of State Elizabeth Warner. Each face showed the same mixture of disbelief and growing anger. 30 days, General Hayes said, his voice tight with controlled fury. They want us to abandon our entire planet in 30 days. Not abandon, Dr. Collins corrected, reading from her tablet. According to their message, we would be relocated to suitable worlds where human development can proceed under council guidance. They make it sound like they're doing us a favor. President Thompson walked to the window overlooking the south lawn. Children were playing on the grass, their laughter carrying through the bulletproof glass. Above them, invisible to the naked eye, alien ships waited in orbit like patient predators. What do we know about these other species they've relocated? He asked. Secretary Warner consulted her briefing papers. Intelligence suggests the pattern is consistent. Species are moved to worlds selected by the Council, typically planets rich in resources but less strategically valuable than their original homes. They are given advanced technology but remain dependent on council support. In other words, General Hayes growled, they become pets. The room fell silent. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. Humanity had achieved so much in just a few centuries of civilization. They had split the atom, walked on the moon, begun to reach for the stars. And now beings from those very stars were telling them none of it mattered. President Thompson turned back to face the room. His voice, when he spoke, carried the quiet strength that had made him a leader. Draft our response. Make it clear that Earth is not for sale, not for trade, and not for taking. We were born on this world, we grew up on this world, and if necessary, we'll die on this world. Sir, Dr. Collins interjected carefully, their technology is vastly superior to ours. If they decide to use force, then we'll show them something they haven't seen in 3,000 years of bullying other species, the president replied. We'll show them what happens when someone fights back. The message Earth would send back to the Galactic Council was already forming in his mind. It would be simple, direct, and utterly uncompromising. Humanity had spent centuries learning to stand up to bullies, whether they were kings, dictators, or alien councils that thought might made right. The aliens wanted an answer in 30 days. They would get one. The Galactic Council's main communication center buzzed with activity as technicians from 12 different species worked to decode Earth's response message. What should have been a simple surrender document was causing their translation systems to overload with unfamiliar concepts and phrases. Ambassador Thylex stood before the massive viewing screen, his forearms crossed in confusion as the human message played for the third time. The words were clear enough, but their meaning seemed to escape logical interpretation. We, the people of Earth, the message began, hold these truths to be self-evident, that all sentient beings are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. High Councilor Vex's metal form clanged with agitation. What does this mean? Are they accepting our terms or not? These concepts of equality and rights make no sense in the context of galactic governance. The human voice continued with calm determination. We do not recognize the authority of the Galactic Council over our sovereign world. We reject your ultimatum. We will not abandon our home, our history, or our future to satisfy your resource requirements. A shocked silence filled the chamber. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, no species had ever spoken to the Council in such terms. The very idea of rejecting Council authority was beyond their understanding. Councilor Zara's tentacles writhed nervously. Perhaps their translation systems are malfunctioning. Surely no intelligent species would deliberately choose conflict over the generous terms we have offered. But the message was not finished. The human voice grew stronger, more resolute. We have studied your history, your methods, your treatment of the species you have relocated. We have seen how you strip worlds of their resources while claiming to act for the greater good. We have watched how you turn proud civilizations into dependent colonies. Ancient Archivist Malden leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Something in the human words stirred memories from the deepest archives, records of species that had dared to resist the Council's will. If you believe we will submit because we are young, the message continued, you are mistaken. If you believe we will surrender because our technology is primitive, you understand nothing about humanity. We may be new to the stars, but we are not new to fighting for what we believe in. The final words of Earth's response echoed through the chamber with a finality that made even the most confident council members shift uncomfortably. We are human. We bow to no master, accept no chains, and yield to no threat. If you want our world, come and take it. But know that you will pay a price beyond your calculations. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For several long moments, no one spoke. The implications of what they had just heard seemed too enormous to grasp. Finally, Ambassador Thylex found his voice. This is impossible. No species rejects the Council on first contact. Our psychological profiles indicated they would comply within days of receiving our offer. Clearly, Vex responded, his metallic voice harsh with anger, our profiles were incorrect. These humans appear to suffer from some form of collective madness that prevents them from recognizing superior authority. But Malden was studying the message transcripts with growing unease. His ancient memory was stirring, bringing up references and records that had gathered dust in the deepest archives. When he finally spoke, his words sent chills through the assembled representatives. I remember now, he said slowly. There was a word in the old languages, used to describe species that fought rather than submitted. Species that grew stronger under pressure instead of weaker. The translation programs have difficulty with the concept because we eliminated such species long ago. What word? Philex demanded. Warriors. On Earth, the response to humanity's declaration had been immediate and unprecedented. Every nation on the planet put aside their differences overnight. Ancient enemies shook hands across conference tables. Rival military forces began sharing intelligence and resources. The threat from space had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy had failed to achieve. President Thompson stood before a joint session of the United Nations, addressing representatives from every country on Earth. The chamber was packed beyond capacity, with millions more watching on screens around the world. Fellow citizens of Earth, he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the planet, we have made our position clear to those who would take our world from us. Now we must prepare for the consequences of that decision. Dr. Collins stepped forward to address the assembly. Her team had been working around the clock since the first alien contact, analyzing every scrap of information they could gather about Galactic Council technology and tactics. The aliens have superior weapons and shields, she explained, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was revealing. But they also have weaknesses. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that other species will submit to their authority. They have never faced sustained resistance. General Hayes took the podium next. Every military force on Earth is now operating under unified command. We are converting industrial capacity to defense production. We are training citizen militias. We are preparing for a fight unlike anything in human history. But most importantly, President Thompson concluded, we are not fighting alone. Intelligence indicates that the Council has relocated dozens of species over the centuries. Many of those species may not be happy with their new circumstances. If we can make contact with them, if we can show them that resistance is possible. The President's voice carried across a planet united in purpose, we may be outnumbered. We may be outgunned. But we have something the Galactic Council has never encountered in 3,000 years of expansion. We have the will to fight for our freedom, and the determination to show the galaxy that there is another way. Earth's proclamation had been sent. The die was cast. Humanity would face whatever came next with their heads held high and their resolve unshaken. The Council had expected submission. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Korth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive vessel cutting through space like a silver blade. Behind him, 200 of the Council's finest warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the advanced metals of a dozen different worlds. This was meant to be a simple demonstration mission, a show of force to convince the stubborn humans to see reason. The blue and white marble of Earth grew larger on the main viewing screen. Korth had commanded fleets for over 50 years, and in that time he had never encountered a species that required actual military action. A few plasma shots over major cities usually convinced even the most stubborn primitives to accept Council relocation terms. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, a thin-limbed creature from the Spire worlds, we are detecting some orbital installations around the planet. Primitive construction, mostly metal and chemical propulsion systems. Korth waved one of his 6 arms dismissively. Ignore them. Begin standard intimidation protocol. Target their largest military installations with plasma bombardment. Low-intensity shots only. We want to frighten them, not destroy everything. The first wave of energy beams lanced down from the Council fleet toward Earth's surface. The plasma bolts were designed to create impressive explosions while causing minimal actual damage. It was a tried and tested method for breaking the will of resistant species. The beams should have struck military bases across North America and Europe, creating spectacular light shows that would demonstrate the futility of resistance. Instead, they hit shimmering barriers of energy that rippled like water but held firm. What? Korth's voice rose in surprise. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated they barely had chemical rockets. Sir, the tactical officer's voice cracked with disbelief, their energy shields are holding. The plasma strikes are being completely absorbed. Before Korth could respond, proximity alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. Warning lights flashed as the ship's sensors detected incoming objects rising from Earth's surface. Multiple contacts, shouted the sensor operator. Thousands of them. Small vessels using primitive chemical propulsion, but sir, there are so many of them. On Earth's surface, General Hayes watched the tactical display in the underground command center buried beneath the Rocky Mountains. The alien fleet hung in space like glittering jewels, beautiful and deadly. Around the world, missile silos opened and launch platforms activated. All Dragon squadrons, you are clear to engage, he spoke into his headset. Remember the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and make them chase shadows. The first wave of 10,000 missiles screamed up through Earth's atmosphere. They were not sophisticated weapons by galactic standards. Earth's technology was indeed primitive compared to the Council's advanced systems. But humans had learned something in their centuries of warfare that the peaceful Council had never needed to discover. Sometimes quantity mattered more than quality. Admiral Korth watched his tactical display with growing confusion as Earth's missiles approached. His point defense systems activated automatically, energy beams reaching out to destroy the incoming projectiles with precise, calculated strikes. Defensive systems are operating at peak efficiency, reported his weapons officer. Estimated destruction rate, 94.7%. The Admiral nodded with satisfaction. These humans were brave but foolish. Their primitive weapons were no match for Council technology. The defensive systems would handle this minor annoyance easily. The first wave of missiles died in space, torn apart by energy beams and defensive screens. Of the 10,000 projectiles that had risen from Earth, only 530 survived to reach the Council fleet. Korth was still congratulating himself on his superior technology when those surviving missiles struck home. The explosions lit up space like a string of miniature suns. Council ships, designed to withstand energy weapons and asteroid impacts, shuddered under the force of chemical explosives delivered at high velocity. Damage reports flooded the Admiral's command screens. Impossible. Korth stared at the readouts in disbelief. How can such primitive weapons cause significant damage? Our hull plating should be immune to chemical explosives. Sir, his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic, the humans are launching a second wave. Sensors indicate another 10,000 missiles incoming. But the second wave was different. These missiles were larger and moved more slowly. When the Council's defensive systems destroyed them, instead of simple explosions they released clouds of metallic particles that spread through space like glittering fog. What is that material? Demanded Korth. Unknown composition, sir. But it is interfering with our sensors and communications. Signal clarity down to 60%. The third wave of missiles came in low and fast, using the metallic clouds as cover. These projectiles were not aimed at the ships themselves but at specific targets: weapon systems, sensor arrays, and communication equipment. By the time the fourth wave arrived, Admiral Korth realized with growing horror that each successive attack was more sophisticated than the last. The humans were not just fighting back, they were learning from each exchange, adapting their tactics in real time. Sir, his communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. Audio only. Put it through, Korth ordered, his voice tight with frustration. A calm female voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Council standard. This is President Emily Watson of Earth. You came to our system to demonstrate your superior power. Allow us to demonstrate ours in return. Korth activated the reply channel. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue this pointless resistance, and you will face the full might of the Galactic Council. Admiral, came the steady reply, you should look more carefully at your tactical displays. We have been using your demonstration period to complete some preparations of our own. The Admiral's sensor officer suddenly screamed a warning: massive energy buildup on the planet's surface. All spectrum analysis indicates they are charging some kind of weapon, but the power levels are enormous. Are they targeting us? Korth demanded. No, sir. The weapon is pointed at their own moon. President Watson's voice came through the speakers again, calm and matter-of-fact. For the past 30 days, Admiral, we have been converting our moon into something new. Our engineers call it a kinetic bombardment platform. We call it Justice. The ancient satellite that had watched over Earth since the dawn of human civilization began to glow with artificial energy. Magnetic accelerators, powered by fusion reactors, started launching chunks of lunar rock and metal toward the Council fleet at velocities approaching light speed. No energy shields in the galaxy were designed to stop solid matter moving at such incredible speeds. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 47 worlds filled the Great Chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, hums, flashes, and telepathic bursts. At the center of it all, Ambassador Thylex stood before holographic displays showing the wreckage of Admiral Korth's demonstration fleet. Ancient Archivist Malden raised his massive form, commanding silence through sheer presence. His voice, when it came, carried the weight of 3 millennia of galactic history. In 30 rotations, he began slowly, the humans converted their planetary satellite into a kinetic weapon system. The engineering requirements alone should have taken them centuries, even with our technology as a reference. High Council of X metallic form clanged with agitation. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated they had barely mastered chemical propulsion. Now they demonstrate gravitational manipulation and magnetic field generation beyond most Council species. You are missing the crucial point, Malden replied, his ancient eyes reflecting countless years of accumulated wisdom. This was not their maximum effort. Our analysts estimate they used less than 12% of their industrial capacity for this project. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humanity could accomplish such feats while barely trying, what might they achieve when truly threatened? The answer came in the form of Earth's second transmission, broadcast across all Council communication networks. The image showed a human female in military uniform, standing before a backdrop of stars and what appeared to be multiple alien vessels. "This is Commander Jane Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force," the woman began, her voice carrying an authority that made Council members shift uncomfortably. 3 days ago, your fleet attacked our world and killed 12,000 of our people. You have made a fundamental error in judgment. The transmission included tactical data that sent waves of panic through the Council's military leadership. Humanity had not exhausted their resources with the lunar bombardment. They had just begun. We have converted 17 asteroid mining operations into mobile weapons platforms, Mitchell continued. We have established hidden bases throughout our solar system and beyond. We have reverse-engineered your shield technology from the wreckage of your ships and improved upon it by 4 to 7%. Councillor Zara's tentacles writhed in distress. Improved upon it? That is impossible. Our defensive systems represent thousands of years of development. But more importantly, Mitchell's voice continued from the transmission, you have taught us something valuable about the galaxy. We are not alone in the universe. And neither are you. What happened next would be remembered as the beginning of the end for the Galactic Council's reign of control. Human ships began appearing in distant star systems, their crude but effective vessels somehow avoiding Council sensors entirely. Most disturbing of all, they were making contact with species the Council had relocated decades or centuries earlier. Admiral Sarah Blake found herself confronting this new reality when her rapid response fleet arrived at the mining world of Kepler 442b. The peaceful Vidanian refugees had been settled there after their homeworld was claimed for its rare mineral deposits. It should have been a simple inspection mission. "Admiral," her sensor operator reported with confusion, "we are detecting unexpected energy signatures from the planet's surface. The Vidanians should not possess technology capable of generating such readings." The transmission that interrupted him carried a calm human voice. "Council fleet, this is Captain David Parker of the Earth ship Defiance. The Vidanians are under our protection now. You have 10 minutes to withdraw before we demonstrate why interfering with them would be unwise." Blake stared at her tactical display in disbelief. How did they get here ahead of us? How did they even know about this world? Our intelligence networks made no mention of human presence in this sector. Her answer came in the form of 20 vessels rising from Kepler 442b's surface. The ships were clearly of Vidanian design, but they had been modified with human technology and bore the distinctive energy signatures of human-Vidanian cooperation. The Vidanians, it turned out, were exceptional engineers with an intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics. Humans, as the Council was learning too late, were exceptional at making friends and teaching those friends how to fight. "Admiral Blake," Captain Parker's voice came again, "the Vidanians have shared some interesting information with us. It seems the Council has been using fear and isolation to control member species for millennia. Keeping everyone separate, preventing alliances, making each species dependent on Council protection. That is the natural order," Blake transmitted back, though her voice lacked conviction. "The Council maintains galactic stability through wise governance." "We have a different perspective," Parker replied. "We call it freedom." The Battle of Kepler 442b lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Admiral Blake's fleet was in full retreat, and the Vidanians were making preparations to return to their original homeworld. More importantly, news of human-Vidanian cooperation began spreading through underground networks that the Council had never known existed. Dr. Margaret Collins, now operating from a hidden research station in the asteroid belt, was monitoring these developments with growing excitement. Her team had made contact with 17 different relocated species, and the results were beyond their most optimistic projections. "Commander Mitchell," she reported through quantum-encrypted channels, "each species we contact brings unique capabilities. The aquatic cetaceans have three-dimensional tactical thinking that surpasses our best strategists. The crystalline zephyrs offer computational power that makes our artificial intelligence look primitive. The gaseous nebulans can phase shift through solid matter. How many are willing to actively resist council authority? Mitchell asked. All of them, Collins replied. Every single species we have contacted expresses frustration with their treatment. They were promised partnership but received servitude. They were offered advancement but given dependency. Back in the council chambers, ancient archivist Malden addressed an increasingly panicked assembly. The reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a picture of systematic rebellion spreading faster than council fleets could respond. They are not fighting a war of conquest, he explained to representatives who had never faced such a crisis. They are fighting a war of liberation. Every species they contact becomes an ally. Every world they visit becomes a base of operations. Every victory they achieve inspires others to resist. Ambassador Thylex's forearms trembled with rage. Then we must destroy Earth itself. We will assemble the Grand Fleet, every vessel from every member world. We will reduce their planet to stellar debris and end this rebellion before it spreads further. Malden's ancient gaze fixed on the younger council member. You still do not understand what we face. Earth is not their strength. Their alliances are not their strength. Their technology is not their strength. Then what is? High Counselor Vex demanded. The ancient being's response would haunt the council's final days. They are. The Grand Fleet of the Galactic Council assembled at the nexus point between spiral arms, a sight that had never been witnessed in the 3,000-year history of galactic civilization. 5,000 vessels from 47 different worlds stretched across space like a metallic constellation, representing the combined military might of an entire galaxy. Fleet Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of the massive flagship, studying holographic displays that showed Earth's solar system in perfect detail. His species had commanded council fleets for 8 centuries, and never in that time had such overwhelming force been necessary to deal with a single world. Today, he announced to his assembled fleet commanders through quantum communication links, we end this rebellion once and for all. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that dare to challenge the natural order of civilization. The intelligence report spread across his command table painted a clear picture. Humanity had somehow evacuated most of their population to hidden colonies throughout their solar system, but their homeworld remained the symbolic center of their growing alliance. Destroy Earth, the analysts concluded, and the human resistance would collapse. What Fleet Admiral Corvin did not know was that humanity had spent the past 6 months doing what humans excelled at, making friends and teaching them how to survive. Dr. Margaret Collins floated weightless in the command center of the multispecies research station hidden deep in the Kuiper Belt. Around her, beings from a dozen different worlds worked side by side, their various forms of intelligence combining to solve problems that no single species could tackle alone. Commander Mitchell, she reported through the quantum communicator, we have made a breakthrough. The Council's greatest weakness is not military or technological. It is philosophical. Explain, came Mitchell's reply from the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, concealed among the moons of Jupiter. They have spent millennia creating a stable galactic civilization based on control and fear, Collins continued. Every member species has been systematically conditioned to depend on the Council for protection, resources, and decision-making. They have eliminated independent thought and innovation from their entire system. How does that help us against 5,000 warships? Because they have never faced a distributed command structure. They have never encountered multiple species working together as equals rather than in a strict hierarchy. Their entire military doctrine assumes a single command center, a single decision-making authority, a single point of failure. Commander Mitchell smiled grimly as the implications became clear. Which we are going to exploit. When the Grand Fleet arrived at Earth's solar system, they found what appeared to be exactly what their intelligence had predicted. A few hundred human ships arranged in defensive positions around Earth and Mars, hopelessly outnumbered but determined to make a final stand. Fleet Admiral Corvin felt a mixture of respect and pity for the brave but doomed humans. Begin systematic bombardment, he ordered. Destroy their orbital defenses first, then proceed with planetary pacification. Try to preserve some population centers for historical records. The battle began exactly as the Council had planned and expected for 3,000 years. Human ships fought with desperate courage but were systematically overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. Earth's defensive platforms, impressive for a primitive species, held for several hours before being methodically destroyed by concentrated fire from dozens of Council vessels. Admiral Corvin watched the tactical displays with professional satisfaction. The humans were putting up a better fight than most species, but the outcome was never in doubt. Soon their resistance would be broken, and the galaxy would return to its proper order. It was not until the Grand Fleet moved into close orbit around Earth that Fleet Admiral Corvin realized his fundamental error in judgment. The human ships his fleet had been destroying for the past 4 hours were empty. Piloted by artificial intelligence systems, they had been buying time while the real trap was prepared around them. "Sir," his tactical officer screamed in panic, "multiple contacts throughout the system. They are everywhere." They were indeed everywhere. Hidden in asteroid fields, lurking behind planetary moons, disguised as space debris and inactive satellites, thousands upon thousands of ships revealed themselves simultaneously. The Grand Fleet, which had thought itself the hunter, suddenly found itself surrounded and outnumbered by an enemy that had spent months preparing for this moment. But the tactical situation was not the worst surprise awaiting the Council forces. "This is Commander Mitchell to all Council vessels," came a transmission broadcast on every frequency. "You came here to destroy Earth. You came here to make an example of humanity. But you made a fundamental error in your calculations." The first coordinated attack came from 6 different directions at once, executed with a precision that defied everything the Council knew about warfare. Vidanian ships equipped with human weapon systems struck from the asteroid belt. Cetacean vessels used 3-dimensional maneuvers impossible for traditional military thinking. Zephyrite craft coordinated their attacks through quantum-linked consciousness networks. "You assumed," Mitchell's voice continued over the chaos of battle, "that because we are young, we do not understand how to fight a war. But you forgot something crucial: we learned warfare from each other. Every species in this alliance has contributed their knowledge, their perspective, their unique advantages." The Grand Fleet's communication networks were being systematically disrupted by Nebulan phase ships that could move through solid matter. Their sensor systems were being fooled by crystalline holographic projections that created false targets and hid real ones. Their carefully planned formation was being torn apart by coordinated attacks using tactics that existed nowhere in Council military databases. "But your greatest mistake," Mitchell announced as the Council fleet found itself completely surrounded, "was assuming we wanted to destroy you." The attacks suddenly stopped. 5,000 Council vessels hung in space, trapped but no longer under fire, surrounded by an enemy that had demonstrated the ability to destroy them but had chosen not to. "This is your opportunity to surrender," Mitchell's voice carried clearly to every ship in the fleet. "Not to us, but to the future. Join the Alliance. Help us build something better than the Galactic Council. Help us create a civilization based on cooperation instead of control, on freedom instead of fear." Fleet Admiral Corvin stared at his tactical displays, his mind struggling to process what had happened. His invincible Grand Fleet was trapped, outnumbered, and completely at the mercy of an enemy that should not have existed. "Why?" he transmitted back, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why offer surrender instead of simply destroying us?" Commander Mitchell's response would be remembered throughout galactic history, because that is what humans do. We do not fight merely to survive. We fight to build a better tomorrow. And that tomorrow includes you, if you are wise enough to take it. The surrender of the Grand Fleet marked the end of the Galactic Council's military power and the beginning of a new age of galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than domination.